Does suicide safety plan look like, and how can we help someone create one?
So, at the very base, it's going to look like trying to get rid of the various means that one might use to commit suicide. So, if you know that there are firearms in the home and that was part of your plan, getting those out of the house. If it looks like lethal overdose, get the pills out of the house or put them in a locker somewhere so that you have to ask somebody to get them for when you actually need them. Um, Safety plans are really just about identifying what are your triggers, what are your warning signs. So, what are the things that are going to set you off? What are the warning signs so that anybody outside can notice when this is happening? And then also, what have you done to remove or diminish means? So the immediacy, because sometimes somebody might have like a really intense suicidal impulse, but then that fades after an hour or two, and they're like, okay. So we want to make sure that we've made that hour harder to fill with lethal means. But that's really kind of what a suicide safety plan looks like. And it's also identifying supports, like who in that moment can I call? Is it 911? Is it 988? Is it friend or family? Who's it going to be?
Yeah, and I think suicide safety plans are extremely important given that like Kansas data has revealed that guns are the most used method for suicide, especially in rural areas. So I feel like it's also important to understand that restricting one means won't necessarily cause the person to move to another means. I've found a couple articles on this. I don't have the citation yet, but I have done some research on rural suicide. Um, and so a big cause I've seen is that really social isolation. People like staying away from each other or trying to isolate and saying, "Oh, I can handle this myself." When in reality, it's not always the case, and bottling up feelings won't solve the problem. And so I feel like a really important part of what people should consider in suicide safety plans is also kind of trying to integrate like what can we do when someone is feeling like they want to commit suicide? Like, can we um, encourage them to interact with other people? Can we encourage them to open up to somebody? Can we um, this is just some stuff I've been thinking about as this discussion has gone on.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And I mean, it's we have to basically try to put every deterrent in way that we can, but we also, it's not just about suppressing the suicidal thought, it's about building the self-esteem. It's about trying to connect and engage and support the individual in a loving way that just because in that moment they're not able to find that love for themselves, if we can give that from the outside and try to boost and build them up, that's great, and very helpful. But also sometimes it might look as simple as saying, hey, you know what? I don't feel safe. You don't sound safe to me. Let's get to the hospital. I think we need a little extra external support. And it's interesting that you say, a lot of people are trying to deny it, trying to push it down, trying to think, I've got this. And every inpatient group that I run here at Strawberry Hill, our inpatient facility, I congratulate every patient that's in that room because I want them to understand. I know the difficulty of the choice it is to come to an inpatient facility, but for every one of them that's there, they've made a very complex, positive communication to themselves about their hope, about their worth, their value, their journey. And for every one of them that's there, there's at least 12 to 15 people out in the community that are still white knuckling it, thinking, I got it, holding on real tight, but terrified. And so it's a big step to take to go to inpatient treatment, but sometimes it's exactly the step that needs to be taken to really allow for, that full comprehensive treatment engagement.
And I think that's something a lot of like communities need to help address is figuring out how to kind of decrease that stigma around mental health that like if you seek help, you're not any less of a person. You are like strong, you are, you're taking a step forward, and that's like I don't something for me is I don't understand why a lot of people think that, having mental health struggles makes you worse. It makes you weak or you're letting your family down when in reality, you're doing something good for yourself. You're trying to improve yourself. You're understanding that you have a problem and that this isn't normal and you're trying to seek help and get better.
Yeah, it's the old comparison is if somebody fell down some stairs in front of a bunch of people and broke their leg, everybody's going to rush down to help them, call 911, get them to the hospital, try to put the bone back right, whatever. But somebody just sitting there and crying quietly off to the side, people will just walk right by. So, I mean, there's a major disconnect in our response. Whereas, what's important to understand is a broken bone is just going to change in your leg is going to change just the way you walk, but everything else you could probably still get through and do. When you're clinically, critically depressed, it affects everything that you do. And so the importance of recognizing that need and accessing care sooner than later, it can be game changing. And a lot of people out there are self-anesthetizing with substances, whether it be alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, whatever it is. Um, and thinking they're fine, but then rushing to a bar and then being short at home. And, it's just, they're not making the best choices that they can. And it's out of this weird cultural insistence that, like, no, I'm fine. I got this. So I think the more that we can be honest with ourselves, we can actually take steps in the right direction.
Um, what is one thing you want every Kansan to know about suicide prevention?
I would say that it's possible, that we have to take steps, that suicide is something that it's cliche to say it, but it's a permanent solution to what is most often a temporary situation. And when, these things that come and go, difficulties, hardships, problems, traumas, whatever, we can help support you as mental health professionals. We can help support you through that. We can't bring you back from the other side. And, what's important to understand is suicide affects, the individual, obviously, but it also destroys anyone that was close to that individual. This is something that I liken a lot of times to, if anybody's watched The Last of Us, the cordyceps fungus, that basically in the real world, it'll infect an ant and it makes the ant leave the colony and go up to a higher area over the colony. And then it kills it right. I mean, it plants it right there and then it spores over the top and it rains down on all the other ants so that it spreads. And in the same way, depression similarly leads the individual away from all their supports, eventually, if left untreated, will kill them. And it will rain down misery and depression on everybody that loved that individual. And so the most important step here is for whoever that is to recognize the importance of reaching out for help. When the depressive thoughts are telling you that no one loves you, no one wants you around, you're inconvenient, you're a problem, that's when you most need to reach out because there are people who desperately love you and definitely want you in their life. And so you're not a problem to them. They would much rather be there and show up and help you than they would ever want to attend your funeral. And that's the fact. So the thing that I want Kansas to know is suicide doesn't stop itself. We all have to work together as a community to acknowledge the devastation that this can possibly bring and do everything we can to communicate caring, connection, support, and love and positivity. It's the only way that we can all get through this.
Um, 1 second. One last question. If someone is hesitant to call a crisis line, what is the best first step they can take?
I mean, I would say the best step is to make the call 988. Because if you're not, I can understand being hesitant to call 911 because you might think, oh, you know what, there's probably a bigger emergency and I don't want to bother, and then I'll have to do something. 988 is such an invaluable resource because you can just call and have a chat. There's no judgment, there's no strings attached, there's no guaranteed somebody's going to come out to you. It's designed as a warm line rather than a hotline. So it's not like a full suicide hotline. It's just a warm line. It's something to call and say, you know, I had a terrible day today. I just want to talk about it. Like I'm literally, I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. I feel awful. And there's people there, trained professionals who will talk you through it. They'll listen. And so I think that the 98 line is the easiest, lowest hanging fruit of therapeutic support because you're not on a wait list for a therapist like you might find in the community. You're not having the police show up at your door. Um, you're just having an unbiased, free, non-judgmental chat with someone who definitely cares because not because they're paid to, but because this is their calling. They're meant to be there as that support. So I would say if you're not comfortable with that, then at least please reach out to a friend or family member, somebody that you love, somebody that knows you, and just say, you know, it's as simple as saying, hey, you know what? I'm in a funk. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. Just open that little bit of conversation and see what happens.
All right, thank you so much. This is Sunnee Serotonin, and we'll see you again in the next episode.